So let's be real. Being a privacy nerd is a bit of a lonely road. The numbers are growing, but the odds are the people you live with on a daily basis, they just don't care about privacy the way you do, and they just don't see the privacy mess the way you see it. It kind of feels like, if you're living in a house that's got gaping holes in the walls over here, and you've got doors falling off the hinges, and you've got squatters camped out in the guest bedroom, but it's invisible to everyone else. You're the only one that can see it. That's kind of what it feels like. So, how do you progress your privacy journey when the people that you live with just don't see it this way? So, today, what I want to do is I want to share some of my wins and losses, and I want to leave you with three strategies that I think I would have started with that might put you in a better place to get the wins that you want to get privacy wise and maybe bring a few people along on the journey with you. So, let's discuss. So before we dive into this topic, I want to actually give you something. It's a gift from me. What it is. So imagine this, because today we're talking about the people that you live with immediately around you, your family. Imagine if you could have an encrypted private message system that you actually own the hardware for. So even if the grid went down, even if telecommunications, internet just decide to drop off for the day, you've still got something, and it's private and it's encrypted. This does exist. It's actually called mesh networking, and it basically involves using a small Bluetooth antenna that you can get online for pretty cheap. And then anyone else, so family, friends, anyone in your area that has this, you can communicate with them basically through a special app that you use on your smartphone, iOS, Android, doesn't matter. And it'll send a text message that's encrypted through the network of anyone that has these devices in your local area. So if there is a network there, you can join it. If there's not a network, you can start one, and you own the hardware. Literally, it's using radio frequencies to send that signal, so it's not something that can really just be turned off, which is pretty cool. So it's not that hard and it's not that expensive, and I've actually done up a one-page PDF, which is a quick start guide that I call Meshed in Minutes, because it's mesh networking. Get it? But you can get that. It's 3 steps. So you should have this. It's nice to have in the repertoire. So if you go to www.welcometoprivacy.com, you can download that guide and you'll get some extra bonuses with it. So it's pretty cool. Check it out. All right, let's dive into this topic. And I have to say, I've had to rework my notes on this topic a bit because I just had so many thoughts about this. It's such a good topic and was requested. So I hope it helps. I wanted to start by just sharing a couple of the wins and a couple of the losses that I've had with doing this with family and friends. And I have to say, I give credit to Signal because Signal has created a pretty good app. Of late, I've become skeptical of them because of their connections to the World Economic Forum, and I've done another video about that, which you can go and find in my channel. But Signal kind of has been a really good starting point for me with being able to move what would have been a conversation on, I don't know, ages ago probably would have been text like SMS or WhatsApp or maybe even Facebook Messenger in a past life onto Signal, which is end-to-end encrypted and it's private, and so for voice calls and all that, and it's so ubiquitous, it's so like readily available that and it's well known enough that you can recommend it to people and it's easy for them to find, and lots of people are on it, which is nice. So that's enabled me to move, some of my close family conversations over there. And then probably even more satisfying was being able to create a family chat group. So from my family and from my wife's family, and to be able to move the conversation over to Signal instead of on Facebook, which is great. And so now most days there's activity in there, and if there are photos or family things going on, we can organize in there, and it works great. It works well. I can't argue with that. So Signal has been a good win. Another win is just through the privacy journey, I suppose. It's been an opportunity to certainly review and kind of audit what services and platforms we use with a view to privacy. And just to make sure that it aligns our choices there with our money for items that we subscribe to, that it aligns with our values. And I think that's a bigger and bigger deal for me and for a lot of people these days. So being able to have that alignment there for us is good. So we're sort of on a process of curating all the subscriptions and platforms that we use and things like that. And it's mostly me driving it, but it's nice that we have obviously shared values. So I think that's been a win. For losses, I'm definitely going to say Facebook groups. So I made the decision a couple years ago to just be done with Facebook, and I have not looked back. The one thing that is, I guess I put in the lost column because I haven't really found a solution for it, and it just keeps popping up as a nuisance, is that groups like community groups or sports teams or whatever local groups or people are wanting to connect, it's always the default of Facebook Messenger. There'll be a group pop up, and I'm like, oh, I'm the nerd who's like, oh, sorry, I don't have Facebook, and the coach or whoever's leading the group will be like, sorry, and I've had a couple that have tried to accommodate, but it's always just annoying. So that's a real convenience thing that has just come at the cost of that, and I would love to find a solution for that. I just haven't found it yet. And then probably the biggest loss for me has been, and which still kind of haunts me, pushing devices on my poor wife, because when I first got into making private devices, like de-googling phones, of course I went ahead and de-googled my own, and the more I got into it, the more I was like, oh, we need to do your phone. So I set up a phone for her, nice Pixel, de-googled it, got all the settings perfectly set up, and the phone proceeded to just sit there. And it's not her fault, it's actually my fault, because it was unsolicited. Like, she didn't ask for it. I just was kind of forcing it, and it was more of a push than a pull, which is something I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But yeah, and then I ended up doing the same thing with laptops. So going on to Linux, which in the long run has been good, but I just wish I had rolled it out differently. So those are a couple of the losses, and I have some learnings from that I want to share with you. So I've got 3 strategies, and strategy number 1, I think, is to just sell quick wins. And we need to just keep in mind, we're selling an idea, we're selling a change, and you need to make it attractive, and you need to have everything you do has got to have a benefit for the person that you're trying to sell the idea or the change to. And that could be, like I mentioned before, about having better alignment with our values, and supporting companies that we actually believe in, and that we're not sort of undermining our own efforts by funding whatever. And then just empowerment, like, privacy is power. It makes you harder for the world to manipulate or victimize. It really does. So you're empowering yourself by learning a couple of privacy things. And if it's something as simple as changing over a messenger, I think that that's a really good place for a quick win. And I'm kind of torn on this. On one hand, I want to recommend, if you haven't already, with your significant other or family member, move them over to Signal. I'm torn between recommending Signal or Session and Simplex, because there are a couple of really good alternatives, Session and Simplex, and I won't do a deep dive on those. But if you're wanting to at least have a quick win, you can propose it as like a temporary reversible change. So you're not like a trial, basically. You're not saying like, we're going to just wholesale swap out everything, we're going to make this big permanent change. You're going, hey, I would really love to be able to have a more private conversation with you, that I know that our information just stays between us and doesn't get shared or viewed by anyone else. Why don't we just try that for like 3 or 4 weeks, and if it doesn't work out, then we'll just go back to doing what we're doing before. And that's probably a lot more of a painless way to position it than some kind of like hard and fast change. So make it easy, and sell the benefits of it as well, because you are selling. That's what's happening here. They have to want to do it. You can't just push them into it. So that's probably the first thing, is sell quick wins, and you can try to find what are the low-hanging fruit privacy wins that you can do, and save the heavier stuff for later if they're into it. Okay. Thing number 2 would probably be to just play the long game. All right. So hopefully your commitment to your family, and certainly to your partner, is lifelong. So there's no reason to rush this. You're going to be around for the long haul. And this is something that if you push it too hard, if you rush it, you will burn that opportunity to get it right, like I have in certain ways. So if I could do it over again, I would do it differently. And it's about persuading and not kind of guilting them into it. So, when I think about the qualities and standards of love, like 1 Corinthians chapter 13 in the Bible gives a really, really solid description of what love should look like. And it says love is patient, love is kind. And so when you are trying to bring your partner along on the journey with you, or if it's a family member or whatever, you love them, and you've got to be patient, and you've got to be kind. And that's just part of it. I think a helpful way to do it, which is not my idea, I heard about it from John Lovell of Warrior Poet Society and his wife, actually. is to just do bite-sized lessons. So he was teaching something to his wife, and he said, look, in about 15 minutes, I'm going to borrow you for just 15 minutes, and I just want to show you one topic, and then I'll promise I'll shut up and I'll let you get on with whatever you're doing. And so he would sporadically do that and then sit down for those 15 minutes and stick to it, and then teach something and just move on. And I think she said for her that was a really effective way to do it, and over time it won the day. So I think that's the same with privacy. Is you just got to play the long game there, and just be prepared to do it slowly and continuously over a period of time with your friends and family that are close to you. And then the last thing, third strategy would be to just keep it in perspective, because privacy is important, and I think it's increasingly important in today's world, but it's not everything. All right, so there are some times when you will have a conflict between your value for privacy and maybe your value for your marriage or your relationship. It could be health, it could be finances. There are some things that are just real big, heavy values that privacy sometimes needs to take a back seat, and you need to be prepared that that will happen sometimes. And I think it shows, especially for your family, it shows a level of maturity that you can kind of park your privacy nerd for a little while, just keep them at bay when you need to. And it's obviously uncomfortable for you to do that, but I think that shows maturity, and it shows that you're being pretty balanced with it. So some things just really do trump privacy. But then also there are times when you can find a creative solution to still preserve some privacy in that whilst you're prioritizing another value. And then in terms of perspective too, I think it's helpful to keep in mind that love, and we love our families obviously, but love is vulnerable. Like you are, by loving someone, you are making yourself vulnerable to that other person, and you're not really going to be able to get away from that, because privacy is it's an individual thing, I think, primarily, but then you want to try to obviously extend that to your family. And if your partner's not on the same level with that, they are going to be a source of privacy vulnerability for you. And you got to live with that to a degree, like the other stuff I've talked about. But just keep in mind, for that perspective, that part of loving well is being vulnerable. And so you're always going to have a degree of vulnerability because of your relationship. That's a healthy thing. And privacy will probably be an element of that until your partner just decides to catch up with you, which may take a very long time. But that's something that you have committed to, and that's okay. So keep that in mind as well. And then the last thing on that perspective issue is just keep in mind that everyone has their own individual privacy, say, convenience threshold, which is a topic that I think is discussed pretty well by Tech Lore, another YouTube privacy channel. But yeah, convenience threshold. So everyone has their own level or degree that they're prepared to give up some convenience to get the privacy back. And obviously, being privacy nerds, we're more prepared to give up conveniences if it means that we're going to get some privacy back. But even privacy nerds will have a threshold for that. Like if someone said, well, you can't carry a smartphone because it's a huge privacy vulnerability, which it is, but you'd go, well, I'm going to give up all the convenience of carrying a smartphone just because of privacy. So you see what I mean? Like everyone has a level, and for your partner or for your family members or maybe for your friends, whoever, they might have a much lower convenience threshold. And you just need to respect that exists. They've got their own thing, and you just need to meet them where they're at. And as you sort of bring them along for the journey, their convenience threshold might lift a little bit, and they might be more willing to part with some convenience. But that's just going to come down to you and how well you can articulate as they see you, that it's a positive, beneficial thing in your life, which hopefully it is. So that's it for perspective. So just to summarize quickly, so you want to sell quick wins. So don't make it too hard for them. Make it easy for them to get started on it. Start with the low-hanging fruit. Thing number 2 is just play the long game. Please don't rush it. And then the third thing is just keep privacy in perspective, in context for you and your family and your relationships and what's important. So that's it. Each one of these I could probably talk for another half hour, but I wanted to try to keep it concise as well. So I hope that you found this helpful, and just be encouraged. Like, you can do this. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, which is cliche, but it is true with privacy stuff. So just love your family well. Just be determined that you're going to do it right in the most sort of helpful, appropriate way that you can. And hopefully implementing some of this stuff will just give you a little bit more of an edge to get a better outcome in the long run. So that's it on that topic for now. If you have more questions on that, or if you want me to dig into anything in particular, please let me know. I'm more than happy to have this conversation. One last plug as well for the Meshed in Minutes guide over at www.welcometoprivacy.com. If you haven't gotten that yet, just get it. Like I said, this is a really powerful way that you can set up some private, secure, local messaging with family and friends in your area. And yeah, it's fun. So get the guide over there. It's free. Got nothing to lose. I will see you in the next video, and I hope that you have a spectacular day. God bless.